The great combo amp purge of 2025 continues. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Guitar Gear Trader channel. I am Steve, coming at you from Nashville, Tennessee. As always, do me a favor, hit the like and subscribe button down below, leave a comment in the comment section, and do me a favor and follow me on Instagram at Guitar Gear Trader. Today, I want to continue telling you about some of the trading that I've been doing over the past couple of days. If you watched the last episode, you know that there was a big trade that I made for an R9 Gibson Les Paul. Nope, sorry, an R7 Gibson Les Paul. And I traded that R7 for a 1951 custom shop no-caster that I got and I didn't necessarily vibe with. And I was trying to parlay that into a Dumble clone made by Amplified Nation. And my big promise was I was going to review that amp. And I did, in fact, get that amp. And I'm glad to say that I got it. And it is right there. I am going to review it. I just want to get to know it a little more. I want to play it a little more. I want to put it against some other amps that I have in my collection to see how I like it and how I vibe with it before I give any type of comment or opinion on it. In the meantime, while I was waiting for that trade to happen, I made a whole bunch of other trades, what I've been calling my combo amp purge of 2025. So, like I said in my last video, I've been wanting to kind of transition from combo amps into amp heads, so that when I make my new studio, I have a garage it's in my house that I'm closing off. I'm making it into a studio, and I'm extending the house with another garage, and I'm waiting for that to get done. So in the meantime, what I was thinking was it would be a lot nicer and I would have a lot more space if I was to convert my collection from combo amps, because that's mostly all I had, to amp heads instead. I think it would display better, and I think it would cut down on the amount of space that gets taken up by the amps. I can put them into bookshelves like other YouTubers have. I can get one of these amp and cabinet switchers where you can plug all your amp heads into one side of this kind of rack system, and then you can plug in speakers into the other side, and you can just hit buttons and say, I want this orange amp to go through this Mesa cab, or I want this Marshall head to go into this Marshall 2x12, or whatever you want. You just sit there and hit buttons instead of going in the back and switching cables and wires and all that kind of good stuff. So I got my hands on 2 amps that I really wanted, and I had to get rid of some amps that I already had. Okay, so what did I have and how did I get rid of them? How did I parlay that? And we're going to talk about one of them in particular today, because I'm really love this amp that I got. You can kind of see it there. It's a little bit of a spoiler. So I had 2 combo amps that I wanted to get rid of. I had an Orange TH30, which is a 30-watt all-tube, all-valve amp that you can cut power. You can run on half power or full power. Which is really cool, and I absolutely love that amp. That amp was my gigging amp when I was back in New York. But again, I wanted to get rid of the combo, so I wanted the head version. So I decided to post that on Facebook. On Facebook, I put it at an extremely reasonable price. Put it up for $500, which is very reasonable. Everywhere else you look, people wanting $700 to $800. That's what I paid for it. I paid $800 for it. I got it at a pawn shop in Philadelphia back when I was living in New York. And I paid, I think, $800 for it at the time. And I put up for $500, and I got 1 or 2 hits on it, not much. And somebody offered me a DSL100 Marshall head, and he offered me $100 on top of that. So I had that in my back pocket. So I said, I'm going to leave it up here for a couple more days, see if anybody gives me cash for it, because the goal was to get an orange head. All right, that's what I wanted. I wanted to get either an AD50 or AD30 or a Rockerverb 50 or a TH30, but in the head version. any one of those that came up on Facebook, I was probably not going to buy it new because they're so expensive. The Rockerverbs are like $2,500. The TH30s are like $1,100. So I was trying to get some cash to get one used. The other amp I had that I wanted to sell, the other combo I had, was another Orange amp. It was a Rockerverb 50. I got that Rockerverb 50 in a trade for I think it was a US standard Telecaster. I valued that Telecaster probably around $900 to $1,100 at the time. It was just your standard US, 2015 USA made Tele. Traded that for a Rockerverb 50 combo. This combo was amazing. I absolutely loved this Rockerverb 50 combo. It was a 2x12, 50 watts, Orange amp, 2 channels with reverb, which is you don't get reverb on a lot of Orange amplifiers these days. So the Rockerverb has it. It's in the name, right? The verb part. The only problem with this amp was that it weighed probably 100. I don't know. It had to weigh between 80 and 100 pounds. This thing weighed an absolute ton. So carrying this thing from my second floor studio here downstairs to my car to bring it to a show or to bring it to a rehearsal just was not in the cards. I was using the TH30 for that. It was lighter, much lighter. It was still heavy, still a beast, but it wasn't as awkward. It was only a 1x12. You can pick it up with one hand, bring it to the car, you bring it to your rehearsal or your gig. Not a big issue. I had listed that on Facebook like a flash sale. I was like, I want $800 for it. You're never going to find one this cheap, right? I've seen other ones that are used for $1,200, $1,300, $1,400, $1,500. The Tolex on mine was a bit rough, so I took price off for that. And also, there are 3 versions of that amp now. There's the Rockerverb Mark 1, 2, and 3. I had the Mark 1, so I had the oldest, probably most outdated out of all the amps. The Tolex was a bit, busted up on reverb. People were asking around $900 to $1,000 for that version. After you take away the fees and all that other stuff, you're probably looking at $800, $850. So I put it up there for $800. And then I basically immediately drove it to Guitar Center. I was like, let me see what Guitar Center will give me for it. If they'll give me something close, if they'll give me $500-$600, and I sell the TH30 to that other guy who wants to trade me the Marshall in $100, I can get some cash that way. In the meantime, I saw this amp, which is a Rockerverb 50 head, which we're going to talk in depthly about in a minute. I saw that amp on Facebook. Somebody was selling it used. They said they barely used it, kept it in their house. Basically, everything's new on it. Tubes are fresh, everything like that. They wanted $1,600 for it. I emailed him like I always do on my trades, and I said, listen, would you take anything in a trade? I have some guitars, I have some amps that I can give you. He goes, I really need the cash right now, but if you do want to buy it, I'll take $1,300 for it. So now I'm like, okay, my wheels are spinning here. If I sell the Rockerverb 50 combo for $800 and I sell or I trade the TH30 and get $100 there, that's $900, and then I only have to spend $400 to get the amp from him. That's not bad, because my other option was I'm just going to buy a new Orange head, and I really couldn't afford a Rockerverb 50 brand new because they're $2,500. I could have gotten the TH30 brand new, but I found out those are made in China, and the Rockerverb 50s are made in the UK. And I would much rather have a UK-made Orange amp than a Chinese-made Orange amp. Now, like I said, I've had the TH30 for a long time, and I loved it. There's nothing wrong with it. It worked absolutely fine. The only thing that I ever had to do to it was change a fuse on it, and that's not a big deal. That cost me like $2 to change the fuse on it. It's not a big deal. But in the back of my mind, I was like, you know what? I really would prefer to have the UK-made, better built, or supposedly better built amp over the Chinese one. So if I can get this one for $1,300 on Facebook, I rather get this one. Okay, so let's take a look at the Orange Rockerverb 50 Mark III, the head version. I have this plugged into a 2x12 Orange narrow cabinet. I kind of like these cabinets because they take up a lot less floor space than the 2x12s that are I guess, horizontal. These are vertical 2x12s, and they stand up a little taller. The head is the same exact width as the cabinet, which makes it look really, really nice. So let's go across the front panel here. So we have our on-off switch, number one. Number two, we have our full standby switch there, so you can either put the amp into standby mode when you're not using it, or you can flip it up to give full 50 watt power, or you can flip it down to give half 25 watt power. You have your channel selector switch here. You have your up, which is the dirty channel, and down, which is the clean channel. If you're using the foot pedal, I have a one switch orange foot pedal from the TH30 that I'm using now. You have to keep it on the dirty channel selection, which is the top one. If you want to use that foot switch, you need to keep that on the dirty channel. If you put it down into clean, and you can hit the foot switch all day, nothing's going to happen. So you know, if you get one of these, keep that on the dirty channel selection on the front panel. Then you have this little area here, which deals with the attenuator and the reverb. This is a game changer for this particular amp. This is the only amp I have that has a dial for attenuation, which is really, really cool. And what that does is it allows you to push the tubes as if the volume was really high, but it lowers the volume of the amp accordingly. So you can literally play this at very low levels, but at very high gain levels, because you're pushing. You can turn the amp, the distortion channel or the clean channel, really, really high, and attenuate it down so that it's not overly loud in your house or in the venue that you're at, but you're pushing the amps, you're pushing the tubes rather, as much as you want, right? So you're going to get that more overdriven tone. The more you push the tubes, the more kind of saturation you get in the gain, and you can still acquire that sound by pushing the tubes at a low volume. Because normally if you don't have that, you either have to crank the master volume and mess around with the gain, or crank the gain and mess around with the master volume to kind of push the tubes the way you want it. With this, you can set your master volume, you can set your gain to what you want it, and then you can just attenuate. One thing that I don't necessarily like about the amp, and it's really the only thing, and it's a nitpick, and it really doesn't bother me, to be really honest, is that all the knobs are on like preset click intervals. So when you go from one dash to the next dash, you have to go fully from one dash to the next dash. There's no in between. You can't put this on 2.5. You can't put it on 3.5 or 5.5. You have to go either 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way to 10. And that goes for everything. That goes for your gain, your volume, your treble, your mids, your bass. Okay, that's the only thing that I think maybe I don't really like about it. But again, it's not that big of a deal. An extra half on the volume or an extra half on the treble or the bass isn't going to make that much of a difference. So that's the attenuator, and that's the reverb. Okay, so like I said, not a lot of orange amps come with reverb. Not a lot of amps in general come with good spring reverb. I know Fenders and things like that do, but the high gain stuff, and that's what this amp is known for. This amp's supposed to be a high gain kind of metal amp, and I'm not using it for metal, but that's what it's known for. It's known to give you that high gain kind of metal sounds. I'm not going to be pushing the tubes that much or the gain that high for what I need to be playing it for, but having reverb on here is nice. Over here we have our dirty channel. Okay, I have my master volume for the dirty channel here. I have my highs, my mid, or my treble, my mids, my bass, 3-band EQ. I have my gain right there, and here's my clean channel all the way at the end with highs, lows, and volume. No mids on that clean channel. This amp is not made for people who want clean tones. This is the channel that people want to use when they get this amp, and I very rarely use a clean channel, so that really doesn't bother me too much that there's not a mid control. Okay, on the back, really no frills kind of amp. It has speaker selections, 8 ohms, 16 ohms, so on and so forth. It has all your inputs for the different foot switch options. You can have, there are 3 inputs for the foot switches. You have a reverb input, you have a channel selection, and then you also have the attenuator foot switch. That's switchable there. Like I said, I'm only using a single pedal foot switch, so I'm only going to be controlling the channel with the foot switch that I'm using. This has two options, so I can pick and choose what two things I want to incorporate there, but we're not going to be using that for this video. And then you just have your fuse and your plug input for the amp on the back as well. I have this going through a Sterling ST155 microphone into my soundboard. My soundboard has no effects on it. All the effects are coming through my pedal board. I don't have another camera to show you the pedal board, and also it's a bit messy, so I'm a little embarrassed of it. But basically, my signal goes through a looper, and that looper has a front amp, or things that go into the front of the amp section, which I have my Phase 90, my Scran overdrive distortion / pedal, and my 7-band Boss EQ GE7 EQ pedal that I'm using for a mid boost. I have it set up as like a mountain for a mid boost. And then in the loop section, which goes to the effects loop in the back of the amp, which is a send and return effects loop in the back as well, I have my DD3 digital delay pedal, and I have my Holy Grail Electro Harmonics reverb pedal that I have set up for hall reverb. So I guess we'll start on the clean channel real quick, just to give you guys an idea of what it sounds like. And this is with full power, and there's not going to be any effects on it other than the reverb that is coming through the amp. And I'm playing through my R9 Custom Shop Les Paul. So this has pretty nice rich reverb in it. That's about I don't know, 3 on the amp. If you want to do it as a clock, it's probably like 10 o'clock. If you want to go up to about noon, see how that sounds. Okay, so let's take a look at it on the dirty channel. So right now, all I have is the reverb from the amp at around noon. It's pretty subtle. If you want to get crazy reverb, go get yourself a Flint pedal or some type of pedal that you can put into your board. So I have the distortion channel on, or the dirty channel on. The volume is about at 2. I have the treble at a little under noon. I have the mids at around 1 o'clock. I have the bass around 12. I have the gain around noon as well. That's really where I'm going to keep the gain. That's plenty of gain, but I'll show you how much gain we can actually get out of this bad boy. And like I said, all I have is the reverb from the amp. Right now, I'm going to have the attenuator on around 3 o'clock. Okay, and we can see what it sounds like. This is, again, just the reverb from the amp, nothing on the pedal board. I love that rich distortion that you get from an Orange amp. It's just my favorite. Out of all the amps I own, I have a Silver Jubilee Studio Marshall that I just picked up. I have Friedman Runt 50 JJ Jr. Friedmans, Vox amps. The Vox amp comes really close. That's going to probably be my second favorite amp when you crank it and get the tubes driving and get the distortion out of it. But I am an Orange amp guy all the way through. No doubt about it. This amp has solidified that in my mind. So let me just show you the attenuator switch here. So as of right now, I have it at 0. Okay, so 0 attenuation, which means it's not attenuating at all. I'm getting the full drive, full volume of the amp. If I want to make that lower volume, but I want to push my tubes the same amount, all I have to do is turn that up a little bit, say about 3 o'clock now, and it's going to lower my volume for me. The more I bring that up, the more attenuation I'm going to get, and it's going to get pretty low. And when you're at a full attenuation, you get nothing. Okay? So that attenuator knob is really, really helpful, especially when you want to play through a 50 watt amp, because this is going to be your rig when you play out, but you have little kids and a wife that are trying to sleep after 11 o'clock at night, right? So you can really get this down low, but you can still use the amp because you want to get used to it, you want to see how it sounds, things like that. Okay, so that's the amp with just distortion and some reverb. Let me put some more. I'm going to cycle through the reverb so that you can see just how much reverb you can get out of this amp. So we'll start at 0 and we'll work our way up to 10. So as you can see, you get quite a bit of reverb there, and the only reason I really bought a Holy Grail reverb pedal was because the Orange amp that I was using and the Friedman Runt 50 combo that I was using and the Mesa Boogie Badlander that I was using, none of them have reverb on them. So I had to put my own reverb on there. So I might sell that pedal, or I might just keep it just in case I don't, what if one day I don't use this amp? I use one of those other combos that I have. I'll just keep it and throw it on the board whenever I want. But this amp has plenty of reverb for me, and I kind of like that it's subtle. I can leave it on all the time. It doesn't muddy up the distortion at all. It really adds to the tone that I have in the guitar, and I don't have to worry about turning it on or turning it off or anything like that. Okay, so that's the reverb part of it. Let me show you some sounds. Let's put some delay on it, and I'll use my EQ, and I'll show you the sounds that I get for when my lead guitar player kicks in for his solos. I'm just going to use my EQ pedal as a mid boost. So you can hear there, it's that EQ just hits that mids and brings up those mids just enough for me to cut through when my lead guitar player hits in his boost pedal so he can do his solos. You can still hear the rhythm guitar going on in the back. Here's some reverb and delay, and then I'll give you reverb and delay with my EQ for when I do the one solo that I do in the Living After Midnight song that I do. The only gripe I have, and I'm trying to figure this out, I've been calling up my buddies to try and figure this out, is that my delay pedal kind of cuts my volume a little bit, and I'm not sure why. It's not too bad. I'm using my EQ pedal to kind of compensate for that, but otherwise it's pretty good. So let's put just the reverb back on, and let's mess around with the amount of gain that we're using. So I'll start the gain at almost 0, and I'll work my way up to 10. Okay, so you can get lots of different amounts of distortion out of this. You can go from super light, which you could do like classic rock with. You're gonna have the gain on about 2 or 3 for something like that. I'm gonna live in that noon area. I'm gonna live right there around noon. That's gonna cover basically everything I want to do. If I want to do a Tom Petty song, but do it a little heavier, that's fine, right? I don't have to go to the amp and turn it down. If I want, I could always use a pedal and set it up for a classic rock pedal. I'm not going to do that. I think that if I stick with this amp around noon on the gain, it's going to basically cover everything I want to do. If I want a little extra, I can always turn up and put it up. Like if we're going to do Enter Sandman, if we're going to do some type of Metallica song, I can always turn around, crank up the gain on it to where I need it. But for the most part, this noon setting is going to get me what I need. Like I said, this is known for, high gain amp, heavy metal stuff. I don't have to push it up that high, and it's going to give me that classic warm British orange distortion that I absolutely love. And even when I want to give that little 80s flair to it, all I have to do is add my reverb and my delay onto this, and it gives me that very, very cool 80s sound. So you can see just how versatile this guitar is on the Dirty channel. Again, people who buy this amp are not buying this for the clean stage. You can buy a Vox AC30, you can buy any Fender, blackface or silverface amp to have a clean channel that you can put all the pedals you want on. I'm really minimalistic. I don't use a lot of pedals. I absolutely love this amp. It's gonna be really hard for another amp to beat this. So thanks for watching. Thanks for listening to all my crazy trade stories. Tell me if you like the amp. Tell me if you like the trades. Did I get a good deal? Did I get robbed? I personally think I got great deals. I ended up with this amp head and a Marshall DSL100, and I spent $500. I don't think that was a bad deal at all on my end. But you tell me. Leave it in the comments. Follow me on Instagram at Guitar Gear Trader. Subscribe to the channel, please. I really appreciate it. Subscribe, share the videos out there if you like it, and leave a comment. And as always, thanks for watching, everybody. Have a great one. Peace out.